Hello, our dear viewers, and welcome to a new edition of our program Africa Today. Mahisi Rabia. The 5th Cairo Water Week 2022 runs from the 16th till the 19th of October. It is to discuss climate challenges and their impacts on the water sector in preparation for the water activities during the UN Climate Change Conference COP27. More in the following story.
Cairo Water Week 2022 is held on the theme Water at the Heart of the Climate Action. The event aims to provide water actors and stockholders from around the world with a platform to present and discuss critical issues, policies, strategies, plans, and measures related to climate water challenges. Organized by the Ministry of Water Resources and Irrigation in collaboration with national, regional, and international partners, Cairo Water Week 2022 focuses on 5 specific themes: water, climate change and future cooperation, and climate water-related disasters preparation and management. It aims to integrate water issues into climate action and promote innovations in the face of urgent water challenges by unconventional methods using modern technology. It also seeks to support and implement integrated water management policies and reach sustainable solutions to manage water resources, to confront population growth and climate change. It includes many high-level rounds, technical sessions, workshops, and presentations by prominent international speakers.
With 1 in 3 people facing water scarcity, the continent is contending with the dangerous levels of water stress, but it also has important untapped resources potential.
Water shaped Africa's history and will be critical to its future. Well-managed water resources, both surface and underground, can help respond to Africa's existing and future needs. Researchers say addressing the water crisis becomes more urgent by the day as the effects of climate change, expressed largely through the water cycle, affect millions of lives. They say droughts and floods are becoming more intense and cities and farms are facing water shortages. Thus, they say cooperation is particularly important in Africa, where 90% of water falls within 63 international catchments, crossing multiple borders. They say the continent's third longest river, the Senegal River, stretches across Guinea, Mali, Senegal, and Mauritania, adding that it is the lifeblood of the area, providing people with water for energy, irrigation, and drinking. They say in a region plagued by drought and poverty, this river could have become the source of conflict, but instead it is one of the world's leading examples of how countries can work together to manage transboundary water resources. Recent reports say another area of water risk that is being highlighted is the health sector. This challenge is particularly acute in Africa, where poor water quality is the root cause of up to 80% of diseases. Reports say one of the main protective measures against the coronavirus is to wash hands with soap, yet nearly 63% of people in sub-Saharan Africa's urban areas struggle to access basic water services. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought to light the significant gaps in water and sanitation services on the continent, with serious consequences for public health. Reports say Africa will need investments of up to $20 billion a year, but countries today are allocating no more than 0.5% of their GDP to the water sector. Between 2000 and 2020, Africa's population increased from 800 million to 1.3 billion people. About 500 million people gained access to basic drinking water and 290 million to basic sanitation services. The figures were provided by the WHO UNICEF Joint Monitoring Program for Water Supply, Sanitation and Hygiene GMP. Worldwide, UNICEF works in over 100 countries to help provide access to safe water and reliable sanitation, and to promote basic hygiene practices in rural and urban areas, including in emergency situations.
To shed more light on water issues, we are very much delighted to be joined over the phone by Dr. Diaa Qousy, our water expert. Dr. Qousy, good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon to you.
Dr. Qousy, Cairo Water Week 2022 discusses the climate challenges ahead of the COP27. How would you list the current climate challenges from your point of view, Dr. Qousy?
Well, always this chain of Cairo Water Weeks actually reflects every year a theme which is most important and has a priority on the list. Obviously, this year we are a few days away from the big event of COP27 in Sharm el Sheikh, which is expected to be with something like I don't know how many thousands actually of people from different parts of the world, but Egypt is one of the most vulnerable countries in the whole world. With respect to adaptation to the climate change and the sea level rise and the increase in temperature and reduced rainfall on the Ethiopian highlands, on the equatorial lakes, on the Nile basin origins, as we call it, and also the change in rainfall on the northern part of the country, which has its importance to the Sinai Peninsula and the western part of the country. All these issues, I'm sure that they will be put in front of the people who are causing climate change by encouraging their industries and their activities to increase the emission of greenhouse gases. We will put all these vulnerabilities not only for Egypt but also for the Arab countries, for the African continent, for other countries in the world. Brazil this year, they have no sugar, they have no coffee because of the reduced or even in some places diminished amounts of rainfall. So in the meantime, we have extreme events which are covering the whole world. You have floods everywhere. You have droughts everywhere. You have landslides everywhere. You have high. It's not only high, but extremely high temperatures everywhere, and the whole world is changing, and the whole earth is boiling actually.
Yeah, indeed. Sir, how different would this year's edition of the Cairo Water Week be different from the previous editions given the new circumstances on the international stage?
The Cairo Water Week is not actually talking only about climate change, but they are talking about irrigation under scarcity of water conditions. They are talking about how to promote and upgrade different types of modern irrigation system in order to reduce the losses of evaporation and the losses of seepage and the losses of aquatic weeds, etc., etc.
Yeah.
They are talking about the networking of open channels and closed conduits for the irrigation of agricultural fields.
Yeah.
They are talking about investment, which is very, very, very important in our cases. How can we invest in these huge areas of desert lands? We need actually to convert them into green areas. by using surface water or groundwater, etc., etc. So the Cairo Water Week actually is touching upon many concepts that are needed for irrigation, for potable water supply, for industries, for power generation plants, for navigation, inland navigation, and how to produce clean electricity from waterfalls.
Yeah.
Also, this is the issue now: how to use solar energy and wind energy, renewable energy in general, instead of fossil fuel in pumping water, in cleaning and treating wastewater, etc., etc. It's a wonderful event in which all kinds of water issues will be raised and will be discussed by professionals from different countries of the world.
Yeah, indeed. Dr. Qousy, actually in Africa, figures show that in urban areas, actually 2 out of 5 people lack safely managed drinking water, and 2 out of 3 people lack safely managed sanitation, and half of the population lacks the basic hygiene services. How would you list the reason for this status?
Well, this is one of the biggest problems actually in third world countries. Clean water supplies and tapped water is not available for everybody in the country.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, if you have, like in Egypt here, we have everybody covered with clean water, with tap water, and with treated, and we can call it safe water for households.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, all this water, all this clean water, not all, 80% of the water goes back to the drainage system. And if you don't have a proper sanitary sewage network, then you are in a big problem. And until now, we here in Egypt, we managed by a tremendous amount of effort during the last few years to provide 60–70% of the population with safe sanitary projects.
Yeah.
But still, we have 30–40% of the people who are not supplied with proper sanitary system.
Yes.
And this in Egypt is very much bright than the African countries, where 80% of the population, they don't have clean water, and obviously 100% of the people in some cases do not have good sanitary systems. And this type of treatment plants and sanitary system is very costly, and many of the African countries cannot actually afford to provide everybody with this system, and that's why the Cairo Water Week, I'm sure they will talk about this business of finance and how can advanced countries in the world give some technical assistance or financial assistance to these countries to cope with this big problem.
Yes. Dr. Diaa Qousy, our water expert, thank you very much, sir, for your precious input, and thank you for being with us and our dear viewers. The urgent action is needed in Somalia with the threat of the famine looming large amid the country's worst drought in 40 years. The statement was made by the World Food Programme official. More details with Samah Sharif.
8 million people have been impacted by drought in Somalia, and more than 1 million of those displaced during a crisis worsened by the effects of the war in Ukraine. Ahead of World Food Day on Sunday, Majid Yahya, WFP representative to the GCC region, said support from the international community was desperately needed. Speaking in Dubai during a WFP event, he said, "This drought is serious. Somalia is the hardest hit country in the Horn of Africa." The region has experienced several climate-fueled droughts over the years, but the situation is worse this time because of the effects from the war in Ukraine. Somalia sourced at least 90% of its wheat from Russia and Ukraine before the war, and the country is also suffering from a shortage of humanitarian aid as international donors focus on Europe. United Nations humanitarian chief Martin Griffiths said last month that he was shocked to see the situation in Somalia. He said that about 345 million people globally are suffering from hunger. The world is also seeing a significant food price increase because of the pandemic and Russia's war in Ukraine. Russia and Ukraine together used to provide more than a quarter of the world's wheat supply, feeding billions of people.
Well, with that, our dear viewers, we come to the end of this edition of Africa Today. Many thanks for watching.